V by Nikolai Gogol, a feel-good tale about demonic eyeballs, dead women, and poor career choices. If you ever thought, hey, I wonder what would happen if a theology student got stuck in a remote Ukrainian village with a corpse who cannot take no for an answer, then congratulations. You are probably Nikolai Gogol, and V is your fever dream come to life. Meet Hama Brut, a seminary student with all the bravery of the Victorian house cat and a talent for making the worst possible decisions at every turn. After a wild countryside tour that involves booze, farm animals, and very suspicious old lady who are shockingly witches, Hama ends up beating said old woman nearly to death, only to find out the plot twist she is actually a beautiful noblewoman who immediately dies from the sheer drama of it all. Naturally, the woman's family invites Hama to read prayers over her corpse, because when someone is directly responsible for a noblewoman's supernatural death, the logical next step is hiring him as your in-house exorcist. Hama, being the human embodiment of Shrek emoji, agrees and finds himself locked inside the church for 3 nights, with a definitely not dead, definitely still witchy corpse of said woman. She spends her evening levitating, groaning, crawling out of her coffin, and doing other typical undead seductress activities. Hama responds with a deep theological wisdom by drawing chalk circles and crying a lot. On the third night, the real VIP shows up. V, a monstrous creature with eyelids so heavy he needs henchmen to manually lift them, because apparently demonic horror and poor eye hygiene go hand in hand. The moment V lays eyes on Hama, our hero dies from sheer terror. No noble sacrifice, no heroic ending, just pure panic and death via eye contact. In the end, his bros casually reflect on Hama's demise, shrug and chalk it up to some bad witch stuff. No investigation, no follow-up, just another day in 19th century Ukraine. What you expect, gothic horror and spiritual reckoning. What you get, flying coffins, demonic eye monsters, and a protagonist who falls faster than a lawn chair. Message: avoid creepy villages, suspicious women, and theology degrees at all costs. Gogol writing is soaked in folklore and dripping with a black humor, like a Slavic stew brewed by Tim Burton on a budget. There is enough grotesque imagery, rural weirdness, and general what is even happening to make you question if this was horror, satire, or an 1800s prank on literature students. Spoiler: everyone dies, or gets spiritually demolished, or possibly just has a bad trip. It's a little vague, but hey, the message is clear: never trust witches, theology students, or literally any village with the mist. Final verdict: 5 stars for sheer unhinged gothic energy, 5 cursed eyeballs for V's skincare routine, stone and horror, and 1 garlic bulb for Homa, who desperately needed divine protection and a better travel agent. Read it, regret nothing, sleep with the lights on. Let's take a look at the various film adaptations of V, because nothing says cinematic masterpiece like trying to bring demonic Slavic folklore and flying corpses to the screen with 1960s special effects in Russia and budget fog machines. Film adaptations of V: horror, hilarity, and a whole lot of eyelid drama. V 1967. That was actually Soviet Union's first sanctioned horror film, or what happens when communism meets Catholic guilt and corpse aerobics. This classics gives us a surprisingly loyal adaptation of Gogol's tale, complete with a Homa who is already look like he's simultaneously hungover and spiritually bankrupt. They nailed it. The witch flies, the coffin levitates, and V himself finally waddle in like a discount Godzilla with droopy eyelids and a smoking problems. Still, it's charmingly eerie, wonderfully weird, and honestly kind of adorable in its earnest horror effort. V3D 2014. Then the new version came on the screens. This one took Gogo's humble folk horror and said, "You know what this needs? Pirates, CGI dragons, and Jason Fleming in a powdered wig." A British cartographer wandering through a haunted Ukrainian forest. Well, it took only 10 years to start making some kind of sense here. Or it might be a rejected Sherlock Holmes sequel after all. So, along with British cartographer, there are demons, monks, mustaches, and a plot that resembles Gogol's original story about as much as a banana resembles a nuclear submarine. The CGI is aggressive, the acting is unintentionally comedic, and V shows up maybe once, briefly, to flex his eyelids and disappear again. It's chaotic, overstuffed carnival ride of the film, and if you're expecting anything remotely literary, prepare for disappointment, but in 3D.
Помоги защитить детей моих, ибо не ведают они, что закрыто в старой церкви.
Самая нужная вещь на нашем хуторе. Терпишь ей руку, и сам черт тебе не страшен.
The Iron Mask 2020. Also known as That Time, we somehow featured Jackie Chan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and no trace of V. This is the sequel to V3D, and I swear I'm not making this up. Jackie Chan fights Arnie in a dungeon while a plot involving maps, monsters, and Asian mysticism unfolds with all the narrative clarity of the bad dream. It's loosely, and I mean loosely, connected to V. Gogol? Who's that? Maybe he's in the background playing chess with the screenwriters? This is less of an adaptation and more of the fever dream wrapped in a Russian-Chinese co-production text loophole. If you're looking for folkloric horror and atmospheric dread, stick with the 1967 version. If you want monks, explosions, and Jackie Chan throwing punches for no reason, buckle up for the modern adaptation. Just don't expect me to actually, be in it.
My journey follows the Silk Road, the Great Wall of China.
Something is very wrong.
Gather the people immediately. Make everyone see that the dragon obeys me.
I must help save them.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. No! Don't touch this! This is the helmet of Genghis Khan.
Helmet? This is an incense pop.
When I have the seal of the dragon, I will rule the world.
So, is there a philosophical angle in V? Obviously, it's a Russian classic after all. Gogol's V may seem like a simple supernatural horror tale on the surface, flying witches, trembling seminarians, and a monstrous demon with gravity-defying eyelids. But beneath the folkloric flair and grotesque imagery lies a darkly philosophical parable about fear, guilt, faith, and the human soul's confrontation with the unknown. Here is a breakdown of the philosophical depth of V beyond the coffins and chalk circles. First, the nature of fear, real or imagined. At its core, V is a story about fear, both physical and existential. Hamab Brut, the protagonist, is less a hero than a fragile, cowardly vessel crumbling under pressure, then confronted with something he cannot explain or control. Philosophical threat, fear in Gogol's story isn't just about monsters. It's about how humans project inner guilt and weakness onto external horrors. The demonic forces may just be manifestation of Hama's spiritual emptiness and lack of inner conviction. Second, faith without substance. Hama is a seminarian, supposed man of faith, but he crumbles in the presence of evil. His religious rituals, the chalk circles, the prayers, are mechanical and hollow, showing that external belief without inner strength is useless. Interpretation. Gogol is probing the hypocrisy of empty religiosity. Faith, if it's only tradition or superstition, won't protect anyone. True spiritual resilience requires inner transformation, not ritual reflex. 3. V as the embodiment of truth and vision. V himself is a chilling symbol. He is described as the chief of the gnomes, with eyelids so heavy they needed to be lifted for him to see. But when he does see, nothing can hide. Philosophical metaphor. V is absolute truth, terrifying in its clarity. To be seen by him is to be fully known, stripped out of lies and illusions. Hama can't survive being truly seen because he is full of weakness and cowardice. Gogol may be suggesting what happens when we are forced to face truth without the comfort of self-delusion. 4. The seduction and destruction of reason. The supernatural in V works like a virus. It infects reason. Hama starts as a rational, if cynical young man, but as he witnesses the inexplicable, flying coffins, rising corpses, his reason collapses. Philosophical idea. Reason alone is not sufficient to navigate the darkness of existence. Gogol leans into the irrational, the mystical, as essential part of the human experience. Denying the spiritual or the unknowable is dangerous, not brave. 5. Death as the final test of the soul. Each night in the church, Hama is tested. He draws his chalk circles, he prays, but each time the evil gets closer, stronger. The final confrontation with V is a spiritual trial, and Hama fails it completely. He dies not from a physical blow, but from spiritual collapse. Message. In the end, death strips away pretense. If your soul is empty, your rituals won't save you. Gogol, ever the moralist, leaves us with a haunting warning. The inner state of the soul is the only thing that matters when darkness comes. Final thought. V is a horror story not just because of what happened, but because of what it reveals. The belief without strength is worthless. The reason without faith collapses in the dark. And the real monster may be the truth. We are too afraid to look into the eye.